From a love for fruits bordering on obsession to stumbling into acting by accident. Here's everything fans need to know about Jon Bernthal. If you watch Jon eat a grapefruit, you'd think there was no friendlier guy in the world. Here's a clip from one of his interviews where he talks about his love for grapefruits. You can see him peel the thing, pull the pulp out, and start eating it right then and there.
Going to town. I mean, I really want to peel this. You know, I don't normally eat it this way. I normally do it with a knife, and I cut it in half. But like, it's the white parts that are really good too. So here's to you, and happy grapefruit eating.
Which is so meta and so very natural for a guy like him. Most of us see Bernthal as this tough dude with a hard persona that you just can't crack. But give the guy a grapefruit and he'll show you where his real priorities lie. Right in the middle of this little fruit that he discovered during his time spent in Russia, where he had a whole tree at the back of his house. Well, you can't blame him for trying to enjoy a snack in the middle of the day, right? But that's far from the only cool random fact about this rising star. Anyway, as cool as that was, I think what's cooler is that he's actually a man of mementos, who carries a lot of items of personal significance wherever he goes. Like the guy literally has his daughter's headband with him all the time hanging on his Jeep, and the ashes of his dog that he loves so much. He also carries a dog tag his sister gifted him when he wrapped up season 2 of The Walking Dead, and a boxing keychain that reminds him of his love for the sport. How cool is that? Turns out, behind this hard exterior is a guy who's full of mush. He's a total family man who loves his kids and wife. Not only does he carry around pictures of them wherever he goes, he says the most important job he has in the world is being a dad. How cute is that? In fact, that's one thing that actually connects him to Frank Castle, aka the Punisher.
Here's what it is, I guess.
You know, it's almost like you were happy for the...
Did you know that Jon almost turned down the role of the Punisher? And the reason was simple. He was never into superhero stuff and thought he wasn't cut out for that life. Fair enough. And to be honest, I can't see him playing a hero in a leotard or an iron suit. But when he got into the details of Castle's life, he actually related to his story a lot. According to Jon, Frank's trauma of losing his wife and kids scared the you-know-what out of him.
Oh, maybe not done.
Not surprising, considering Jon's such a dedicated family man. So after reading about the character and finding out that he's driven by vengeance rather than superpowers, Jon decided to take up the character. But did you know that Tom Holland also helped him get the part? Yep, true story. Our very own Spidey helped Jon become the Punisher. This happened when they were shooting Pilgrimage together. Coincidentally, at the time, Tom and Jon worked on their auditions for Marvel, so both of them helped each other out. Jon read lines off camera for Tom's audition tape, and in turn, Tom played an actual part in the Punisher's tape for Bernthal. So while Jon may not have wanted the part initially, in the end, he was fully committed to the character, even going so far as to complete his shoot with a broken hand once. Yup. Now, we all know the Punisher doesn't take his adversaries lightly, and it's one of the darkest Marvel shows around. There's a lot of action, and Bernthal once acted without a stunt double, breaking his hand in the process. But he didn't stop. He kept going, and had to go into emergency surgery to get it fixed. That's why you see him wearing a cast in some scenes of Season 2. Now that's what I call commitment. And in order to get into Frank Castle's headspace, Jon went so far as to isolate himself from the world. Considering how well Bernthal played the part, his level of commitment was obvious. He embodied Marvel's crazed, gun-wielding vigilante as best as he could, and gave us a memorable performance that we'll never forget. In reality, though, Jon's totally different from the Punisher. In fact, I'd go so far as to call him wholesome because he really is that. He's a great dude, despite all the shady cats he plays on screen. He's a woke guy who didn't back down from talking about toxic masculinity while having hot wings in that show. Nor has he been shy about discussing his dark past. and the fact that he almost ended up facing life in prison because of a nasty temper problem that he had. He's also a lover of pit bulls and has a dog named Bam Bam, who he absolutely adores. Really, just look at the two hanging out as he drives. How cute is that picture? And he doesn't just own the dog, he's also very conscious and passionate about the breed too. One of Jon's goals is to eliminate the myths surrounding pit bulls by showing how loving these dogs can be. Now that's a guy I'd like to be friends with, especially considering all the stories he knows thanks to his podcast, Real Ones with Jon Bernthal, where he talks about some pretty solid issues, including activism, gang violence, and cop behavior, all hot-button issues across America. It's actually a pretty great show with blunt honesty that isn't tailored for the sake of viewership, which is pretty rare, let me tell you that. And it's all a reflection of this dude's personality, which is half inspired by his experiences in Russia too. Did you know Jon spent many years in Russia studying acting and playing basketball? And if you watch his interviews, you'll know how close he holds his experiences there to heart. He's also fluent in Russian, which shows that he really took the time to understand and study the culture. In fact, he's been vocal about how much he loves the country and says he developed a profound appreciation for art and acting there, something he couldn't find in America at the time. Jon's also a very respectful dude, especially to his teachers. One of Jon's teachers, Alma Becker, encouraged him to go study in Russia. Jon has so much respect for Alma that he had her name tattooed on his arm. Her influence on his life was so strong that when he dropped out of college because of some troubles in his life, Alma got him an audition at Moscow Art Theater, where his entire passion for acting began. But hey, Jon never initially thought of that as a profession for himself. He caught the acting bug by accident. Basically, he'd signed up for a blow-off class where he thought he could drop acid and watch movies. But when he entered the class, which, by the way, was being taught by Alma, he realized this was the real deal. And when the students were asked to talk about something meaningful, he realized he had nothing to talk about, and got into a story about his mom gifting him a glove, which got everyone, including him, crying. The catch was, his mom was alive, and when Becker found out, she wrote him up for disrupting the class. But then, she also told him he had talent, and that's when he got an audition in her upcoming play, which is what ultimately got him into acting. What a story, right? So there you have it, folks. From a love for fruits bordering on obsession to stumbling into acting by accident. That's everything fans need to know about Jon Bernthal.